Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Happy International Potato Day!
Yay! Okay. Okay, quiet, please. Just kidding. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, I'm Anna Helmer, and this is Michelle Beks, and we are farmers up the valley here, potato farmers. Thanks for coming. This is obviously a very popular place to be on a Tuesday afternoon, and the ladies are rocking out there. Hardest working women in Pemberton showbiz, as far as I'm concerned, out there. Yeah. Okay. Michelle, take it away.
Take it away. Okay.
Let me just get on to the next slide. I'm doing remote slide management. Okay, there we go.
So yes, I am Michelle Beks. I'm a co-owner of Shaw Creek Farms in the Pemberton Meadows with my husband, John. And we've been growing seed potatoes for 43 years together, but he also grew seed potatoes with his father up until then. So at least 50 years of seed potato history in our family. And we also grow carrots. Just throw that little plug in there. So I just wanted to start off by saying that if any vegetable in the world deserved its own international day, it's the potato.
Here, here.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most versatile vegetable you come across. Plus, each potato has your full day of nutrients in it. They're loaded with vitamins and potassium and magnesium. They're really, really, really good for you. Don't let the media tell you that they're bad for you, because they're not. They're very good for you. So the first potato is obviously potatoes that we don't see these potatoes around much. Potatoes, or Solanum tuberosum, as we like to call them, were first grown for human consumption 7,000 to 10,000 years ago in the Andean mountains in South America. And around the year 15... Whoops. Oh, that's okay.
We almost didn't notice you, but then
you're at the front. So around the year 1570, the Spaniards famously invaded South America, and they discovered these hidden gems. And if anybody's a potato person, they get my little joke there. The little hidden gems, and brought them back to Europe. Today's potatoes are a very, very, very distant cousin to these Andean true original potatoes. You wouldn't recognize any of these in the store. Yeah. And so Europeans, they were really suspicious of these new vegetables that came in. They thought them to be poisonous because they are a member of the nightshade family. And even back in those days, they didn't even really like to eat tomatoes either, because they thought they were poisonous because of the nightshade. And I may get into a little bit of the science of why they might be poisonous. But they slowly gained acceptance, and by the 18th century, they became a food staple. Next photo. And we were going to do some fun facts, but this is a not so fun fact. The Irish potato famine was caused by Phytophthora infestans. This airborne spore thrives in moist conditions and spreads easily, causing massive die-off in the fields. And then what they would have harvested would have melted down in the root house or in their storage. It wouldn't. That's why they lost so many potatoes. And the Great Famine, it killed about 1 million people, and it caused another 1 to 2 million people to emigrate to America to flee the starvation. Next photo. And this photo is in the Pemberton Valley. So in the early 20th century, European settlers started buying farmland up the Pemberton Meadows, and this included the Ronan, the Miller, and the Green families, among many others. If you look in the Pemberton book, they're all in there. The soil was such that these farmers knew that they could grow potatoes very easily. And in 1930, a local farmer named Walter Green, somebody's great-grandfather, bought 100 pounds of potatoes from Lillooet, and he planted them. And then the next year, he sold 1 ton of potatoes to Will Miller, a fellow farmer in the valley, and that began the production of potatoes in the Pemberton Valley for sale. Now, word of the high quality potatoes grown here spread. And this was a little article, just, I don't even know where it came from. I have it at home in a photo album. But Pemberton potatoes started winning a lot of awards at different trade shows and fall fairs and that kind of thing. Even, I think, so much at the CNE as well. Fifth photo. And in the 1940s, Pemberton was declared designated a seed potato control area. Now, the reason for that is Pemberton's geography and its isolation it still to this day, creates a natural barrier to pests and diseases coming into the valley. So high mountains make it difficult for insects, airborne viruses, things like that to get into the valley. And the cool nights and the short growing season slowed down disease development. Now, we do have a very short growing season in this valley. All this combined to make the valley ideal for growing disease-free potatoes. In the 1950s and 60s, so we're getting a little bit more recent history, using meristem tips, Dr. Bud Wright, who is the father of the elite seed potato program, created pathogen-free plantlets in a lab in the UBC Research Station in Vancouver. These were grown out in greenhouses. So you take the little meristem tip. It's like you're doing a plant cutting at home. You put it in a solution, it grows roots. You let that plant grow, you can cut it again. And that's how he multiplied them up. And then he started, and thus creating the first disease-free mini tuber potatoes. And these mini tuber potatoes were then planted in Pemberton, probably in the mid to late 60s, and grown generationally in the fields. So that means they were planted, harvested, stored, and the next year planted again to multiply the variety. And I think it was maybe only 1 or 2 varieties at the time. And after years of multiplication and testing, the seed potatoes could then be sold to other farms across BC and across Canada, and then eventually across the United States. So thus began the elite seed potato system that is still in use today, and it is also a model for seed potato flush through growing systems worldwide. So it started in the Pemberton Valley. And now Anna will explain how we're doing
what
now. What?
So this is the sign that's at the entrance to the valley, right? This is the thing we get asked about the most. The thing about Pemberton is it's got a lot of different layers of rules for really independent, famously independent perhaps, people. Farmers like us have a lot of rules and we follow a lot of rules. So there's the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, I'll talk more about them, is the overall, runs the whole program. They inspect the fields, they issue the permits, they do the whole thing. But there's also this provincial layer, which is the seed potato legislation that restricts the planting of potatoes in Pemberton. You're allowed to eat different potatoes in Pemberton, even though you might find they burn a little on the way down. But you can only plant Pemberton sourced seed potatoes in Pemberton. And that's because potatoes, for all their like robustness and yeah, they're healthy, you can live on them, blah, blah, blah. They're extremely vulnerable to disease. And if you keep growing potatoes and then planting those potatoes and keep doing that, for the most part, generally speaking, Myson will probably dispute it, but they will not stay true to type, and they'll be more and more susceptible to disease, and it just will go awry for you. That less resistance to bugs and all that sort of thing. So that is the reason we have a robust seed potato industry, because you have to plant really healthy seeds. I digress. So there's the provincial rule, and there's some rules around that. And then there's the Pemberton rules that we've created for ourselves and bound ourselves up in. But we're allowed to do that under this legislation that was created, I think in the, I'm going to say the 70s, but now I can't remember. 70s, yeah. So we're a committee, and it's in the legislation that we're allowed to have a committee and make all the rules we want. We don't have any enforcement. We can write letters, and we're really good at that, but we don't have any, we can't, do anything about it. We can just make a lot of rules, which is fine. We're fine with that. We've been good with that. So that's that sign. And then the other thing we get asked about a lot is this lab business. What's this all about? So Michelle touched on a little bit that you have to do these cuttings to multiply. Like to get a crop of 1,000 pounds of potatoes, say you want to sell 1,000 pounds of potatoes, you have to plant, say, 100 pounds of potatoes. And to get 100 pounds of potatoes, you have to plant 10 pounds of potatoes, and to plant 10 pounds, you need 1 pound of potato. Like it's all going back to something. And what it goes back to is this little jar with plants growing in it. These plants are tested in a lab that is independent from us. Like we don't have any influence over them. So we send these plants over there. It's on Vancouver Island, and they test for a huge variety of diseases. I'll show you that slide shortly. And then we start cutting these up. So to get our initial 1 pound of potatoes, we have to plant these tiny little things that we've like cut in the lab. So there's a picture of the lab set up. It's a laminar airflow, like a proper science experimental thing. The colors are all different varieties. This is the lab list. So these are all the varieties that we're growing in Pemberton this year, 2025. It changes quite a bit because there's new, like all those numbered varieties, those are sort of new varieties that have been bred that maybe they're going to be good and maybe they're not. We're always trying to find like a yellow, for example, that's a little more prolific than Yukon Gold, that's round, unlike the Sequinda, but has the same taste as the Sequinda. Like the holy grail of yellows is a round potato that is very prolific, that tastes good. And so far, Constance, which is over here, we have a sample of it, is fairly close, but it's still not a Sequinda taste. That's a digression too. Oh boy. Okay. This is the testing. So this was the La Rat potatoes. So that was a little jar that we sent over there. They test for all those viruses. They're all listed up there. And those are viruses that wouldn't affect you necessarily as a chef, like a cook or, a gardener, but they're terrible for commercial production, like for chips and things like that. It would leave a black, the PVY, I think it is, leaves a black ring around the chip. We can't have that. And like all these things, and they affect the yield and all the things. So you can't have these. If we're going to be selling seed to big commercial growers, it has to be perfect. So this is the beginning of perfection. We're so perfect. This is this flush through system. And just, I've been doing this for 25 years. Michelle's been doing it for 40 years. And I'm pretty sure I can speak for you on this, but it's so hard to explain.
It really is.
Like, oh my God. Yeah. Oh, what happened? It went back.
Hey.
So let's just move on anyway. No, just kidding. We'll go back to it.
Get back there.
So like you start with your tissue culture. Like you can see the steps here, but what I find hard to explain is that in the field, we have every single one of those steps in the field. So the Constance, or that's a bad example for our farm, the La Rat, we have tissue culture La Rat in the lab in jars. This year we've got a screen house with tissue culture plants in there, making that first pound of actual potatoes. We've got pre-elite in the field, like a line of potatoes. It's literally like 50 feet. And then the Elite 1 is like 150 feet. And then the Elite 2, like all beside one another in the field. So it takes up quite a bit of space. And then we also have the commercial crop finally at the end, which we hope will yield, a few thousand pounds in our case. So every year we're growing every class. And the flush through system means that we don't take Elite 4 and bring it back and plant it again. And I'm working on this analogy. I'm not sure this is the crowd to test it out on, but it's like food, right? Like you just take fresh food in, but you don't reuse the food, if you know what I mean. It's only fresh food.
Very good analogy.
Isn't that good?
That's a
and
good.
you have new food all the time coming in.
Because then what are you planting?
Yeah, and you would never reuse the food.
Yeah.
So that
That's a good one.
The FIA inspector comes, and she's looking for signs of virus. So there's different clues you can look for. She's looking for varietal mix-ups because commercial growers don't want, if they're paying for constants, they do not want Yukon Gold in there. They want constants. And she's evaluating the stand and how many weeds there are. And we actually get a report card on every variety with letter grades on it. And they're not very nice. Like they have been kind to us in the past, but generally speaking, it's very real. And if you get the right grade, then you get a tag. So there's a Sieglinde tag. This is the little 3 up there that's the class. So that we have tags for Elite 2 and Elite 1 and all the things. This is the grower number. Our grower number is 9041149, and then 009 is the class of the variety. And this is, we get a growing certificate, which looks like this. So it lists all the things that are in our field and what stage they're at. Nuclear is the stage that comes out of the screenhouse. So the screenhouse is the next picture. This screenhouse is sort of in a fairly recent addition. So it's not a sterile environment, obviously, but it's an exclusion environment. So it has netting on the side that no aphids or anything can get in there. So it stops the clock from ticking on the Elite thing, and gives you an extra year to get to that 1,000 pounds, and to get that first pound. And then you put that in the ground. Like those pails are what came out of the screenhouse. And so that is the very beginning of actual tubers. And those will plant in the spring and harvest from them. And then eventually you get to your big liner truck going to BC Fresh and 2,000 pound totes, starting from that pound. And then this is the sort of final look at it. We thought we'd touch a little bit on the pressures that we're facing and the challenges and advantages that we have. For some reason, we can evaluate that sometime. It's not an issue that I'm working on right now. I took pictures for the challenges, but I really spelled out the advantages. And maybe it's good that it's not the other way around. But there's a lot of, the temperatures are getting pretty high. It's getting harder and harder to be out there in the middle of the day farming. Even in that heat dome, we still had to move irrigation pipe and do the odd thing. And it was hard work. The tractor seat there is to represent that all the costs have gone up. So we're sort of delaying fixing things. And obviously there's a few issues with that tractor seat, but a replacement John Deere tractor seat is like $2,000 or something. Like, I'm not just going to drop $2,000 on a tractor seat. It's fine, obviously. Land prices, I think we all know about the thing with land prices. You can't be a farmer and buy a $3 million 25 acres or whatever. Like, it's not going to be a farmer can't pay a mortgage with potatoes. So that's tough. It's going to be the only thing you need to farm now in British Columbia is money. And that's not good enough. That is not going to do the trick. And right now we're leaving all our food production. The future of our food is up to people that can afford farmland. And I can tell you that they are not good farmers. That is not their forte. And it's not a smart move, but there's not much we can do about it. The grizzly bear thing is just that, like, they are so cute. That's true, but they're a total pain. And this represents sort of this which we're working on, and I think there's lots of positive things to say about it, but also there's this sort of tension between the cute grizzly bears and the reality of living in the country, and that it's not Little House in the Prairie anymore. We are people living, and we can't have grizzly bears in the backyard, like on the pawing the kitchen window. Like, it's just not going to work. So there's those things, but we have all these encouraging aspects as well. And our original opportunity remains. All the things that made Pemberton amazing for farming are still here. The soil is mostly still there. Some of it has been covered in gravel, but a lot of it is still there. The isolation remains. We're still virus free.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have things like Colorado potato beetle. Like, Colorado potato beetle is right over the mountains there in the Okanagan, and they eat all the leaves off the potatoes. Like, it's a terrible thing. And people have to go around and take them off and put them in a bucket. And then, like, whatever you do with a bucket of Colorado potato beetle, I'm not really sure what you do with that, but we just don't have them. They can't survive the winter. I don't know what it is, but we don't have them. And then there's been this booming, I'd have to say, sort of mixed vegetable thing that's come along, and all these really keen farmers that are really good at growing like broccoli and cabbage, and this is huge array. So there's a lot of eyes on Pemberton, and there's a lot of kitchens in Sea to Sky that have Pemberton produce in them, and I feel like that's a really encouraging direction for us. And I mean, I don't know the number of CSAs that are coming out of Pemberton now, but I think it's thousands. I don't know what it is. And then the nice thing that we've all realized on our sea potato farms is every single one of them has another generation working, right? Like, actually working. At least two generations, and in a couple of cases, 3 generations actually doing work, which is really nice. It's a good feeling, and feels like there's a good farming community happening here. And then, like, a full room for a seed potato talk. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's true.
So we put some varieties there on the table to have a look at. And this was a poster that the Tourism Pemberton made. It's up at our farm stand, but they did a really good job, and it's very informative. And I think the more people that can talk about it, the better. Eventually we'll clarify what it all means, and that would be good.
Yeah.
Did I miss too many things?
No, I think you covered it.
Are there? I think we have time for questions. Do we have time for questions? Yeah. If there are any. Yeah.
When you're going back to different stages. So do you have all those stages going at the one time? So you have one area that's this, one area that. And so I'm assuming you wouldn't get crops from all of those in the 1 year.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, we're harvesting every single one of them, because we have to have enough potatoes to plant the next year in the next stage.
Yeah. So when we harvest all our different generations, is what they're called. So we would harvest our pre-elite, and we put on our farm, we put those in totes and stack them up in the back of the barn. And then the next generation is harvested of the same variety, and it goes in front, and then or in totes as well. So, and everything's labeled and kept separate. And so then all of the generations are harvested in the 1 year, and all of them are stored. So how it's a flush through system is that we will start with mini tubers from my greenhouse, and they are harvested. They come through to pre-elite, elite 1, elite 2, and elite 2 and elite 3 are what we sell to our customers. So basically, the flush through is it's starting here and it's gone, but it doesn't ever stop. It's circular. Yeah.
So how long does it take?
Well, if we have a request for a variety for somebody that wants seed potatoes for, say, Constance, so the constant tissue culture comes into the lab, and that's year 1
In a test tube.
And then you put them in your greenhouse, so that's also year 1. That's a little confusing. That's year 1, and then you get your nuclear, and then you get pre-elite, and then elite 1 and elite 2. So it can be 4 to 5 years before you have a crop to sell. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mason.
I grew up in BC, so I had our Victorian, education, like most of the people here. And it was a lie. Britain made all its gin from all the grain that came from Ireland during the so-called famine. Ireland was a net food exporter, so therefore, by definition, it wasn't a famine.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true.
They could have made the gin from the rotting potatoes and given the grain to the people, but then they wouldn't have cleared the land.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I think it was an awful, terrible situation.
The Irish textbooks refer to it as the hunger,
Yeah.
and the newer textbooks refer to it as an act of genocide. So we have to be careful of words we, use.
Well, I mean, the whole population lived on potatoes. I think we just met a guy that he's an Irish professor on potatoes, and he had a whole slide deck, and I think he said that they're eating like 1,000 pounds a year of potatoes, each Irish person, man, woman, and child, 1,000 pounds. I think we eat 50 pounds or something.
Their grandparents were forced off the land.
Oh yeah, no.
No, we know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
So-
terrible
so
situation.
they had
Yeah.
crop rotations.
Yeah.
through generations, really.
But what we've learned from it is to grow more than one variety of potato and to do the seed potato business, because that was their problem. They just kept planting and planting and planting. So when this infestans came, it's like, woohoo, what was the
because the
name
crop
of
was
the
weak.
potato? I can't remember what the name of the potato was, but
something rose.
it just hit it hard, like it all, and the whole field. And they would have harvested those potatoes, and Michelle's right, they would have just melted in storage. We've had rotten potatoes, and it's the most awful experience in the entire. Not only does it smell as bad, there's nothing worse than a rotten potato, but it's like a shocking thing that happens. A beautiful pile of potatoes, everyone perfect, and you go in and they're rotten, and it just. I mean, I can't imagine if that was all I had to eat. Obviously, that would be terrible. But the lesson to be learned is more than one variety of potatoes, really healthy seed potatoes, and don't let the English steal the grain. Obviously. Yeah.
Any other questions?
A lot of your sweet potatoes go to places that are famous for their potatoes, like Idaho,
Yeah.
and somewhere down east.
Yeah, PEI gets potatoes. They're all over. We sort of brainstormed
yeah,
a list. I think I made a list.
They're all Pemberton.
Pemberton. So Pemberton seed potatoes go to
I have a list.
Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan,
California,
California,
Washington, Oregon,
yeah.
Minneapolis, Yukon, Quebec, Ontario, PEI. That's what we know about from the last year's crop. So that's fairly extensive. Yeah. I mean, you ship to California, and
Yeah.
aren't those growers up? Oh no,
Yeah,
that's
no. We had today. We were showing our buyer from California, one of them, to she came up to look at our crop in the field today. She flies up and checks the crop, checks the seed, checks to see what it looks like, how it's growing, and she comes every year. Yeah,
She just wants to come here.
I know that's true. That too. Yeah.
Could I ask you? You mentioned during the speech that you would talk to us later about the poison.
Oh right. Well, glyphosate. Or not glyphosate.
The greening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's photosynthesis.
Yeah.
So when the potato is exposed to light, it turns green, and you shouldn't eat it. Like if you see green potatoes in the store, you shouldn't
Walk by.
buy. Some people it doesn't bother at all, and some people can just whack off the green part and cook it. But lots of people get really sick, and there's been some. Historically, I think there's been a couple of varieties developed that had bad green and it made people sick. So it's one of the things that's sort of not regulated, but it's you have to grow varieties that don't have.
It's tested for it.
Tested for it. Yeah, and it's the same in the tobacco plant. They're in the same family.
Yeah.
That toxin is called nicotine. So it's that same thing. But nicotine on its own apparently isn't that bad. Nicotine has been shown to help a few things. So I don't know if they're going to find the same thing with green. There's lots of books about potatoes, like Potatoes Not Prozac. I don't know if you remember that from
Potatoes Not Prozac?
Yeah, that was a book in the 90s, I think. Yeah. Question at the back.
Yes, you have to rotate the crops.
Yes.
Yeah, you sure do.
You can't plant.
I mean, people do. You can plant potatoes every year. But if you've seen a potato field after it's been harvested, you can see that it's just been everything that is in a potato comes out of the soil.
Mhm.
So there's just nothing left. And then you can take 5 years and do it with cover crops and long rotations, or you can bang in the fertilizer. And Pemberton is in the, like, even the most conventional farmer in Pemberton that loves the fertilizer the most will still do a 3-year
Yeah, 3-year
rotation
rotation crop,
at
cover
the
crop.
minimum. That might be one of our rules.
I think it's down to 2 now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but there is, you
Yeah.
do have to rotate. You can't,
Yeah.
we can't plant in the same field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means you have to have a lot of land.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you do.
Like
Yeah.
you say, that's pretty hard to.
Yeah.
Pretty hard to come by.
Yeah, it's a lot of land crop for sure. But I think historically most of the farmers also ran cattle herds. So they would have the potatoes growing, and then the cattle would eat a lot of the cull potatoes, which is very handy because cull potatoes often have disease and that sort of thing in them. So they are difficult to dispose of. But cows just love potatoes. So they would just eat them and poop them out and make nice manure. And then you'd plant a grass and clover, some sort of mix for forage and for hay, and the cattle would graze that. And it just was a very symbiotic sort of arrangement. But
Clover, alfalfa, fixed nitrogen too.
yeah, there was a lot of
Pigs,
stuff.
cows.
Yeah,
Yep.
a lot of stuff going on. But cattle are a lot of work, and that price fluctuates a lot. So that hasn't been as popular of late.
Do those different potatoes have a different flavor, or
Yeah, they do. They
Yeah.
really do. It's kind of amazing. Like the Kennebec, these are the famous fry potato. And we never grew them, and then we did, and I fried them, like just oven fries. And it was amazing.
Yeah,
they
are amazing.
It was. I kept thinking, and sorry if this offends anybody, but it was like dabs of bacon or something, like that crispy brown look with the really something.
Yeah.
And
You should apologize for
What's
your
your
love of
favorite?
potatoes. It's generational.
my favorite is the Sieglinde, and John and Michelle grow the seed for the Sieglinde. This is also known as the German butter, but German butter is not the real name. That is a marketing gimmick. There is also German butter, an official German butter, but we're not growing it. I don't know if it's any good or not, but the Sieglinde is the best, probably because it's just so easy to sell, because it's really easy to recommend it, and nobody comes back and says, "Ew, that was kind of gross."
No.
Like, they're never going to say that. This is the Constance that I was talking about, where they're trying to get the flavor of this and a little more yield than the Yukon Gold. Yukon Gold and the organic system are just really pathetic. I think they were developed in Canada, but I think they need NPK. I think they want a granular fertilizer. That's all there is to it. And we don't provide that.
Yeah.
It's always been important.
Yeah. So they're trying to, and we planted this at the end of May, this Constance. So it's a pretty good size for now. Yeah, that's it. These are the Larat. The fingerling is just a shape, but Larat is this kind. They're very dense, like all the flavor of a big, huge potato all packed into a little one. And they've been in the ground as long as these. And this is how big they get. So that's pretty irritating. Organic. Not all the farms are organic.
We're not organic.
Yeah, Michelle's not organic. So
We're
they will,
conventional.
like Michelle, they do a soil test to find out what they need. I shouldn't probably be talking about it. I don't actually
No,
know.
you're
but
fine.
from what I understand,
Yeah.
you do a soil test. It says
Yeah.
this is the NPK that you should have, the nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus. And then they get a big bag of fertilizer that's that formulation. And that's what they plant with the potatoes. So that's how you grow potatoes commercially in a really big way. And there's organic approved fertilizers as well. Like if we chose to use fertilizer, we could as well. They're just weaker versions and probably more like blood and bone meal based. In my personal farm, we don't use any of that. We just rely completely on a 5-year rotation with cover crops. So mowing down the cover crops and just trying to increase the organic matter, because that's where all the biological activity happens. So we just do everything we can to build organic matter over the 5 years between potato crops. Oh, that's nice.
for your hard
Oh,
work.
Thank you.
that's nice.
Is there any other questions before we wrap up the talk? off. Yeah, we're going right.
That really dark one,
Mhm.
what's it look like on the inside?
It's yellow on the inside.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a sort of Yukon Gold derivative. This is actually a private variety, so we pay a royalty to the breeder to grow this. And they came up with it because I guess there was a demand for round purple potatoes with yellow inside. And they're good, but they're not like the taste sensations that the Seegland are. But they're a little starchier. They make a really nice mash. They're good. Yeah.
The land that's being sold to hobby farms, there is a solution. It's complicated. We have to get the SLRD to get special permission from the full cabinet.
Mm-hmm. No
But
problem.
in Switzerland, it's illegal to buy a farm and kick the farmers off. If you want to build a mini mansion on a farm near Zurich or
Yeah.
anywhere else in Switzerland, you have to keep the farmhouse so there's a habitation there for farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And so people often hire the same farmers that they bought the farm from to run the farm.
Yeah.
If it stops farming, they kick them out of the mansion. There's no occupancy permit. They can't go in their house.
Oh, it's such a complicated issue, and I mean, I don't want to be.
I mean,
Our
that's a lot, but that could be a
it's
long-term
people's
solution
plan
for the
is the
valley.
land price. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
You can still have your hobby farm to look at, but it has to be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
That was
you.
so
Oh,
interesting.
good. I'm glad
Thank
you liked it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.